She walked onto the plane quietly, dressed in a hoodie, worn sneakers, and carrying a weathered leather backpack. No flashy jewelry, no designer handbag, just confidence and calm in her eyes. To most people, she looked like an ordinary passenger, maybe even someone who had mistakenly wandered into first class. That's exactly what the flight attendant thought, but what no one knew, not even the crew, was that this woman wasn't just another traveler. She was Dr. Nia Cole, the CEO and sole owner of the entire airline they worked for. A self-made billionaire who built her empire from the ground up. Nia believed in staying low-key and observing people when they thought no one was watching. But this time, her disguise didn't just expose someone's bias, it triggered a chain of events that would shake the company to its core, because the moment that flight attendant slapped her, thinking she was out of place, was the moment everything changed. What followed was a storm of humiliation, viral headlines, unexpected forgiveness, and a lesson the world would never forget. Was a crisp, clear morning at JFK International Airport. The sun had barely risen, but the luxury terminal for Astrolux Aviation's private international flights was already humming with quiet efficiency. Polished marble floors gleamed under soft golden lighting, and uniformed porters wheeled designer luggage for a small group of elite passengers heading to London on flight ALX901, a VIP route reserved only for the ultra-wealthy. Inside the boarding lounge, complimentary espresso machines hissed and champagne flutes clinked softly as passengers waited for final boarding. The attendants, impeccably dressed in sleek navy blue uniforms with gold pins, smiled graciously. Among them was Lisa Holloway, a senior flight attendant known for her sharp looks, strict professionalism, and quiet judgment. Lisa had worked with Astrolux for over 7 years. She knew how to cater to tech moguls, fashion icons, and international royalty. But she also had a habit of sizing people up the moment she saw them. To her, appearances meant everything. A Rolex meant importance. A Chanel handbag meant class. And streetwear meant trouble, or worse, economy class. As boarding was called, a woman in her late 30s stepped onto the private jet bridge alone. She was striking in a quiet way, tall, confident, and poised, but dressed in a simple black hoodie, fitted leggings, and spotless white sneakers. Her afro was full and natural, a clear contrast to the polished, sleek looks of the other passengers. She carried a single leather backpack, scuffed at the edges but clearly loved. No designer tags, no entourage, no assistant carrying matching Louis Vuitton trunks behind her. Lisa spotted her from across the cabin and narrowed her eyes. The woman walked toward her with a relaxed stride and a polite nod. "Good morning," she said. Lisa didn't return the greeting. Instead, she scanned the woman's outfit with barely hidden disdain. "I think you may be lost," she said curtly. "A coach is on the commercial side of the airport. This is a private flight." "I know," the woman replied evenly, unfazed. "I'm in seat 1A, Lisa blinked, caught off guard. 1A? She repeated. "Yes," the woman said, holding out her boarding pass. "Is that a problem?" Lisa hesitated. "Odd." A few nearby passengers glanced over, curious. But after a few seconds of awkward silence, Lisa forced a tight smile. "Right this way," she muttered and turned on her heel. The woman followed calmly, unfazed by the icy reception. She settled into her luxurious leather seat and quietly pulled out a slim tablet from her backpack. As she began scrolling through documents, Lisa returned to the front galley, still fuming. "Unbelievable," she muttered under her breath to a fellow attendant. "These people think they can wear sweatpants and waltz into first class like they own the place." 10 minutes later, another passenger boarded. This time, a middle-aged man in a sharply tailored navy suit, polished Oxfords, and a Cartier watch gleaming under the cabin lights. He handed Lisa a platinum Astrolux card without being asked. "Mr. Whitaker." Lisa beamed. "So lovely to see you again. Can I get you your usual champagne before takeoff?" "Of course," he said, sliding into 2B. She returned moments later with a chilled glass, setting it on a linen napkin with a practiced smile. But when the woman in one pressed her call button a few minutes later, Lisa took her time responding. "Yes," she asked flatly. "Could I please have a glass of water?" the woman asked politely. "Should Lisa gave her a pointed look, eyes scanning her outfit again. "We'll get to you when we can," she snapped and walked away. A couple sitting across the aisle exchanged uncomfortable glances. Another passenger raised an eyebrow, but no one said a word. The woman in one simply returned to her tablet unbothered. As the engines powered up and the plane began taxiing toward the runway, the mood in first class was split. Some passengers scrolled through emails. Others sipped their drinks and leaned back in their fully reclining seats. But a subtle tension lingered in the air, like a wire pulled too tight. Lisa continued her service with perfection, selectively. Every champagne glass was refilled before being empty, except for the woman in 1A, who hadn't been offered so much as a napkin. After takeoff, Lisa made a show of checking on Mr. Whitaker 3 times in 15 minutes, laughing at his jokes and complimenting his cufflinks. She even offered him a complimentary gourmet meal upgrade. But when she passed the woman again and noticed her seatbelt wasn't properly aligned, perhaps from adjusting her position to read, Lisa took the opportunity. "You'll need to wear your seatbelt properly," she said sharply. "We have rules for a reason." "I understand," the woman replied, fixing it without protest. Lisa stood there a moment longer, trying to provoke something, but the woman didn't bite. By now, murmurs had begun among the other passengers. Everyone could see what was happening, but still, no one intervened. After all, this wasn't their business. This was a private flight, and on private flights, people often looked the other way. As the plane climbed to cruising altitude, turbulence began to rock the cabin lightly. Lisa, carrying a tray of drinks, stumbled slightly and spilled half a glass of red wine straight onto the woman's black hoodie. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Lisa said, not sounding sorry at all. The woman looked down at her now stained hoodie, then up at Lisa with quiet, measured calm. "Maybe next time, try dressing more appropriately," Lisa added with a smirk, as if the incident were the woman's fault. The woman slowly stood up, brushing the wine from her shirt. She wasn't angry. She wasn't loud. But there was something powerful in her silence. "I think I'd like to speak to the head of in-flight operations," he said firmly. Lisa's smirk vanished. Other passengers were now fully alert, watching with interest and unease. "Ma'am," Lisa snapped, "you're just a guest on this flight. You don't get to make demands." The woman tilted her head slightly. "You're very sure of that?" Lisa crossed her arms. "You people always think you're entitled to something." That's when she did it. Lisa raised her hand and slapped the woman across the face. Gasps filled the cabin, and yet the woman didn't flinch. She looked directly at Lisa and said just 4 chilling words: "You'll regret this deeply." And with that, she sat back down, calm, composed, and completely in control. The cabin fell into stunned silence. What no one knew was that Lisa had just insulted, assaulted, and humiliated the billionaire who owned the very company keeping her employed. But the fallout? That was only beginning. Lisa's hand trembled in the air, still mid-motion, her face frozen in shock at her own action. For a brief second, it was as if time had stopped. But the woman? She didn't flinch. She simply turned her head slowly back toward Lisa, a red mark forming on her cheek, and looked her dead in the eyes. "Yeah." Her calm had not wavered. In fact, it had deepened. "I'll let this slide for now," she said softly, each word coded in warning. "But you just made a very expensive mistake?" Lisa blinked, her confidence faltering. "I make decisions." The marshal began walking down the aisle toward them. "Ladies, is there a problem here?" Lisa turned, hoping for backup, but the marshal's eyes were on the woman, the passenger who had just been struck. The woman answered before Lisa could. "No problem, officer. Not yet. But I would recommend that the rest of this flight go smoothly." Her voice carried power now. Not loud, not demanding, but undeniable. It was the tone of someone who held the kind of authority that didn't need to be shouted. Lisa opened her mouth to speak again, but something in the woman's expression, some quiet knowledge, some unseen leverage made her stop. The marshal looked at Lisa. "We'll speak after the flight lands," he said flatly, then returned to his seat, though now he stayed alert. The other passengers were silent. Some stared at the woman in 1O with a new sense of respect. Others just looked away, embarrassed by their own silence. As the woman sat back down, she calmly reopened her tablet, wiping away the wine stain with a napkin. Her hands didn't shake. Wes didn't shake. Her expression didn't change, but Lisa's world had already begun to unravel. She didn't know it yet, but she had just assaulted the owner of the airline. And in less than 12 hours, the entire world would know too. London's Heathrow Airport was cloaked in its usual haze of overcast skies and damp chill, but the morning remained orderly. Flight ALX901 touched down smoothly. its wheels kissing the tarmac as the jet rolled toward a private terminal reserved for VIP and high-ranking airline officials. The crew began standard landing procedures, still unaware that this would be anything but a routine arrival. Inside the cabin, tension still lingered like leftover turbulence. No one had spoken about what had happened mid-flight. Not out loud, but the energy had shifted. The woman in 1A had returned to her tablet as if nothing happened, sipping the glass of water another attendant, nervously trying to save face, had finally brought her. Lisa hadn't gone near her since the slap. The moment the jet reached its docking point, uniformed ground staff rolled up a mobile stairway and extended the private ramp. The doors opened with a mechanical sigh. Airport security personnel were waiting. 3 officers in black suits and earpieces accompanied by a logistics coordinator wearing an Astra Lux badge. They stepped inside and politely asked passengers to disembark one by one. Each first-class guest left quietly, casting sideways glances at the woman in 1A as they passed. They didn't say a word. Most wouldn't dare. But the looks on their faces spoke volumes. Who is she? The woman remained seated as everyone else departed. The flight marshal gave her a respectful nod before exiting. Lisa, who had been gathering trash in the rear galley, peered toward the front, still visibly flustered. She had convinced herself that whatever the woman was trying to do, whatever complaint she had filed, would be lost in the usual bureaucracy. Maybe a warning, a note in Lisa's file, nothing she couldn't handle. But then she saw the sleek, all-black Mercedes Maybach 680 glide up to the base of the jet bridge, the kind of car usually reserved for royalty, heads of state, or billionaires. A uniformed driver stepped out and opened the rear passenger door, his posture stiff, his demeanor precise. Passengers on the flight, perhaps out of guilt or shock, had leaked cell phone clips within hours. They captured Lisa ignoring Dr. Cole, rolling her eyes, making snide comments, and finally the shocking moment she struck her. The clip of the slap, just 3 seconds long, looped endlessly on TikTok, X formerly Twitter, and YouTube. Memes appeared within minutes. One showed a broke-looking passenger icon turning into a billionaire with the caption, "A plot twist of the year," but the tone wasn't all entertainment. There was anger, deep boiling anger. Viewers across the globe condemned Lisa's behavior, calling it racist, elitist, and disgraceful. Dr. Nia Cole's composed response, by contrast, was hailed as the epitome of grace under pressure. A popular influencer posted, "The fact that this woman got slapped and didn't retaliate, but instead kept her dignity intact, that's power, that's leadership, that's billionaire energy." Another wrote, she didn't demand respect, she commanded it." Justice for Naya began trending globally. By noon, the official Astra Lux Aviation Instagram and LinkedIn accounts had disabled comments. The company's customer service lines were overwhelmed. CEOs of rival airlines chimed in, praising Dr. Cole while subtly shading Astra Lux's internal culture. The pressure was mounting. Just before noon London time, the airline finally broke its silence with a formal press statement. The wording was clear, but it didn't feel like enough. Everyone expected heads to roll. Calls to fire Lisa echoed across the internet like a chorus. Journalists camped outside Astrolux headquarters. Legal analysts debated the consequences. Day experts weighed in on national broadcasts. Even celebrities posted reactions, calling the incident a masterclass in humility and bias exposure. Then came the twist no one saw coming. At exactly 5 p.m. GMT, Dr. Nia Cole posted a video to her personal social media accounts. It was just 2 minutes long. No music, no filter, no flashy production. She sat at her desk, dressed in a navy blouse, her curls pinned back, eyes locked on the camera. Yes, she began, her voice calm. I was disrespected. Yes, I was spoken down to, judged, ignored. And yes, I was struck on my own flight by someone who didn't recognize me and, more importantly, didn't care to." She paused, her expression unreadable. "But I'm not here to fire anyone. Not yet. Because I believe in something bigger than outrage. I believe in accountability." She leaned forward slightly. "Elisa will not be terminated today. Instead, she'll enter Astrolux's full leadership retraining program. The same one designed for our executives, not our flight staff. It's rigorous, It's uncomfortable, and it's transformational if she takes it seriously. If she completes it successfully, she'll be allowed to continue working. If she doesn't, she's done. That's not a second chance, it's a test. Another pause. I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in correction culture. I believe in correction culture. Let's see if she can grow. She ended with one final line that shook the internet. Everyone deserves respect until they prove otherwise. And even then, sometimes they still need a teacher, not a torch. The video exploded. Millions watched it within the first hour. Influencers, business leaders, and even activists, many of whom initially demanded Lisa's termination, now praise Dr. Cole's restraint and wisdom. A professor of ethics tweeted, "Dr. Cole didn't just de-escalate a racial and corporate crisis, she turned it into a masterclass in restorative justice." But not everyone was so forgiving. Some believed Lisa should have been fired immediately. Others accused the airline of trying to save face. A heated debate brewed between camps. Should forgiveness come so easily? Should consequences always be final? Through it all, Dr. Cole said nothing more. She had made her move, and now the spotlight shifted. Lisa, now officially suspended, was hiding out in a corporate apartment provided by the airline. Reporters staked out nearby cafes. Her name had gone from obscure to infamous in less than 24 hours. Every blog post, every tweet, every leaked employee photo only added to the frenzy. Behind the scenes, she had already received her enrollment packet. Astrolux's Executive Integrity and Empathy Leadership Program. It included mandatory training in diversity, emotional intelligence, power dynamics, and accountability. The instructors? Former diplomats, psychologists, and human rights advocates. Lisa would be undergoing a transformation if she could survive it. Meanwhile, inside the skyscraper headquarters of Astrolux, Dr. Nia Cole stood before a private boardroom window, watching the city lights flicker on as night fell. Her company's reputation had taken a hit, but not for long. She didn't need to prove she had power. She had just proven something far more important. That real power lies not in retaliation, but in restraint. And the world had just learned exactly who Nia Cole was. 3 weeks had passed. For most employees at Astrolux Aviation, the scandal on Flight ALX 901 was old news. The social media fires had cooled, the headlines faded, and new controversies had taken center stage online. But for one person, those 3 weeks had felt like a lifetime. Lisa Holloway had entered the company's executive retraining program a broken woman, not just in reputation, but in spirit. Gone was the confident, sharp-tongued flight attendant who once believed appearances told the whole story. What replaced her was someone grappling with shame, regret, and uncertainty. The retraining program wasn't just a few online modules or scripted lectures, it was relentless. Each morning began at 6 a.m. with a session on implicit bias taught by a former UN human rights official. By mid-morning, she was knee-deep in role reversal simulations designed to force empathy. Serving underprivileged volunteers who had been flown in specifically for the training, they asked hard questions, they pushed back, and they didn't accept fake apologies. Afternoons were for group therapy and accountability circles, where Lisa was required to confront her past. Incidents she'd brushed off, comments she never thought twice about, passengers she dismissed based on looks. She had to listen, sit with her discomfort, and answer for her choices. One particularly grueling session forced her to replay the cabin video, the one the world had seen. Every flinch, every rolled eye, every sarcastic smile, magnified. And then the slap, the moment everything changed. Lisa had watched herself do it a dozen times. "I don't recognize that woman," she whispered once, head bowed. "That's the point," the facilitator replied. "You're not supposed to." There were many moments she wanted to quit. She nearly packed her bags after the 5th day. The old Lisa would have walked away, found another airline, blamed a cancel culture, and moved on. But someone kept her grounded. In every hallway of the training center, posters of Dr. Nia Cole lined the walls. One in particular showed Nia standing beside the quote, "We don't hire perfection, we build accountability." Every time Lisa saw that quote, she remembered the calmness in Nia's voice when she'd said, "That was a very expensive mistake." She remembered the slap, the power imbalance, and the chance she'd been given when everyone expected revenge. So she stayed, she worked, she changed. By the end of the third week, Lisa was different. She didn't just say the right words, she meant them. The arrogance was gone, replaced with genuine humility. Not the fake kind company script, but the kind that only comes from truly seeing yourself, flaws and all. Then came the final test. Lisa was summoned to the training director's office. A one more flight, they told her. A short private route. So, no press, no announcements. No room for error. She nodded, understood. She spent hours preparing that cabin, checking every detail twice. The glassware sparkled. The napkins were folded with perfect symmetry. The scent in the cabin was subtle but comforting. Her uniform was clean, crisp, and she stood taller, not from pride but readiness. The door to the jet opened, and in stepped Dr. Nia Cole. Lisa's breath caught on her throat. Nia was dressed in her signature casual style, black sneakers, dark jeans, and a soft charcoal blazer over a plain tee. Her curls were free, no security detail, no assistants. Just her. Lisa straightened, her voice steady but softer than it had ever been. "A good afternoon, Dr. Cole. Welcome aboard." No assumptions, no attitude, just a respectful, authentic greeting. Nia raised an eyebrow with a quiet smile. Smile. Looks like someone's learned something. Lisa nodded slowly. "I'm still learning." Every day, the cabin was silent as Nia took her seat in one of the very same spot as before. Lisa offered her a drink without delay or judgment. Nia accepted water, and this time it arrived within seconds, served with a cloth napkin and eye contact. The flight was uneventful in the best way. Smooth skies, professional service, not a single mistake. Lisa moved with calm precision, checking on Nia without hovering, never overcompensating, never trying too hard. Just present, polished, changed. As the plane descended toward its final destination, Lisa approached her one last time. "Thank you for flying with us," she said, the same words she'd used for years. But this time, they held weight. Nia stood, slinging her backpack over one shoulder. She studied Lisa's face for a long moment. Then, finally, she spoke. People don't always start perfect," Nia said quietly. "But they can grow. You proved that. Just remember, never judge someone by how they look. Not even a billionaire in sneakers." Lisa blinked back tears, her voice catching. "I never will again." Nia nodded, extended her hand, and for the first time, Lisa shook it. Not as a superior to a subordinate, but woman to woman. The door opened. Nia stepped out. Lisa stood there, alone in the cabin, the soft whir of the engines slowly fading into silence. And for the first time in years, she felt light, not because she'd saved her job, but because she'd reclaimed her humanity. The screen fades to black. Words appear on screen. Respect is earned. But dignity is never optional. Up, inspired by true stories of power, prejudice, and redemption in the skies. This story wasn't just about a slap or mistaken identity. It was about power, perception, and the price of prejudice. Dr. Nia Cole didn't just teach a lesson in leadership. She reminded the world that true strength lies in patience, grace, and how we treat people when no one's watching. And for Lisa, that flight changed everything, not just her career, but her entire outlook on life. In a world where appearances can be deceiving, it's what's beneath the surface that truly matters. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, inspired you, or made you think twice about judging someone too quickly, hit that like button and subscribe for more powerful stories every week. What would you have done if you were in Dr. Cole's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, everyone deserves respect until they prove otherwise. See you in the next video.